welcome to week 2 of Project RTR. Our box stock, ready to run RMX is taking shape as we've got our body mounted and we're preparing to weigh it in. We'll be taking a deeper dive with this Sky RC Bluetooth scale set on a resurrection episode of Tech Tuesday, coming very soon. For testing purposes, we will be weighing our chassis in with the battery. It tipped the scales with a 43 to 57 front to rear weight bias and a total weight of 1,252.5 grams. When adding the body, we've raised the weight to 1,412 grams total and maintained the 43 to 57 front to rear weight bias. For week 2, we utilized our entire budget with some new Reve-D tires and a scale reflex rear mount for our ESC. This mount is suitable for RMX, GOM, and YD2, and you can pick one up today from scalesciencerc.com. We'll begin our installation by removing the power switch as well as the ESC from the lower deck of the chassis. Luckily, I'm a Tetris master, realized I could remove the battery, slide the ESC backwards and then out the other side, and voila, ESC is removed. Now we'll clip the zip ties and we can remove the wiring portion of the ESC. With it sitting in the back, let's take a new measurement. Look at that, we're hanging out at 6337 on our weight bias. Should be perfect for pushing the car out onto the comp line. Now for those of you wanting to run a shorty battery on your stock ready to run, keep in mind that the servo size actually pushes the ESC over the final inner mount on your battery post. So you will have to run it wide with an extra piece of foam or something to hold it in place unless you were to possibly replace your servo with a thinner servo, which would allow you to move your ESC just enough forward to mount and post the final battery mount. Now with our ESC roughed into its rear location, we need to get all of the wiring to its designated locations, which includes a receiver wire, the battery wires, and the motor wires. We'll begin to run the wires by removing this rear bumper. Two 2mm hex heads allow the bumper to release, and then you replace with the scale reflex mounts. We will now release the 4 2mm bolts holding the transmission in place so we can run the ESC wire underneath as seen here. There is a little channel that will allow it to move free and easily through. Once you get it fished, you can then tighten up all of your hardware, including your rear bridge support and the 4 transmission screws. Lastly, we'll use the 2 remaining screws in the hardware kit to mount the plate. We then take some double-sided tape, adhere the ESC to the plate, and plumb all of our wiring. This came out really clean and really nice and looks like a factory job. Lastly, we'll move the remaining 2 bolts for our battery tray so we can have it locked down in the shorty position. We'll complete our install by running all of our wiring back into the receiver in its dedicated location and tucking everything into the center chassis braces. All said and done, it really keeps the chassis clean and gave us the rear weight bias that we were in search of. The only thing left is to get this body looking as good as this chassis should drive. Starting this week, we'll be dropping an aesthetic tip of the week. This week, we'll be installing one of these fresh and shiny new window banners from our local Team Bullet Train. The little details like window banners and stickers really help capture the essence of a real-size car. These little details are key in helping trick the eye when taking scale photos and making people question, is it real or RC? While we're at it, why not add a scale license plate? With these awesome sheets we made, it's always hard to decide which one we should do. Let's go with Old Trusty. So we cut out the sticker, then apply it to a small sheet of scrap styrene. Ensuring that 2 of the edges are square makes this an easy install. You could use scissors to cut the styrene, but I prefer to use a number 11 hobby knife. You run a score line down one edge, all the way down, and a score from that score to the very edge of your sticker. You can then bend and snap your styrene sheets at your score lines and remove them easily. Follow up by drilling some micro holes for your scale hardware, and you have one sick looking license plate ready to install. And because it's on styrene, you can bend it, it sits off and looks a little bit more realistic. You could even add a light on top if you wanted to. Installation is straightforward, first drilling one side hole and installing the screw to hold it in place, then drilling the second side hole, and finally installing the last piece of hardware. Our final step today is installing our scale mirrors. We'll use a body reamer and move slowly, opening the hole piece by piece and checking constantly to ensure that we have not gone too big and that the mirrors will not fit snug. Fits like a glove. We'll then repeat the process on the opposite side. Once completed, we'll use the scale body clip and O-ring to keep the fit nice and tight, even after some bumps and grinds. With the mirrors on, the light buckets in, and the scale windshield banner, this S15 is definitely looking so cooler. For our last tip, pick up one of these liquid chrome Molotov pens. The chrome comes out phenomenal and is a great touch, for example on these mirrors where we did not get a chrome sticker. Now let's head to Scale Science 3.0 and see how these changes have affected the drivability of our RTR RMX. Now one tip I'd like to offer you guys that might be at home following along would be to make the first change, the ESC mount, before changing the tires as well. Should you make the change and not like it, it's easier to pinpoint when making one change at a time rather than a whole slew of changes in one go. These initial tests were done on the Gold Dot CSR tires that the car came stock with. But pay attention to its proximity to the wall and where it is on line. Though it's driving smooth, the line opens up and its hang time increases when we switch over to the Reve-D tires. As you can hopefully see, the smoothness and drivability of the car has definitely excelled since week 1. It feels a lot more planted in drift and is carrying a lot more angle through those drifts. When stacked up against another car, you can definitely see matching the angles that were definitely close. Still not anywhere near as smooth as a dedicated comp car, but we're only in week 2, so have some faith. As confidence gained, we put our little S15 out with the sharks into heavy Friday night traffic, and at the hands of Steven was driving excellent. Here you see Mark giving definite chase in his SX3. Now, as a high-end comp car, no way. But as a trainer, this car is excellent. You have to be smooth and online to have the car looking proper. If you fall offline or you need to make a correction, you definitely can see it, as the car does not have enough power to float or correct after making serious miscalculations online. So from a training standpoint, I think this could be a very beneficial thing for new people as well as veterans, because you're forced to drive smooth and accurate, and everyone's drift could benefit from a little bit of that. Now keep in mind, all of these tests were conducted at the hands of an experienced driver, and that no amount of modifications or upgrade parts will ever replace the value of seat time. So at any opportunity, get your radio in your hand, put your car on the ground, and put some serious seat time in, because seat time is invaluable, and it's the one thing you can't buy. This week's seat time tip is going to be donuts. We're going to practice donuts. They're the core and fundamental skill needed to drift. So what I would suggest you guys do is put something down, an indicator of some kind. It can be tape, a can, an old tire, whatever you want. You're going to cut donuts around it in one direction. The key is going to be to try and keep it moving smoothly around the circle without needing to correct the tires too much, okay? You hit the tire, start over. By next week, you should be able to do 100 donuts each direction without touching that tire. And if you can, post up a video of you doing it to be shared on this week's episode of the Scale Science live stream. Circles, what's the point? Well, you look here and you can see I'm practicing throttle control. I'm actually putting very little steering input into the car. It's almost all gyro based on my throttle input. So donuts are a great way for you to get some really good practice with your throttle control on your radio. Now once you guys get those donuts dialed, add a second tire to the mix. Start cutting yourself some 8s. This is going to help you link the fundamentals of going each direction. Got your left donut and your right donut. And you can kind of open them up and carry them, but start small. You know, you don't need a lot of speed, a lot of power. This is just getting your basics down, getting your fundamentals of driving your car, making you comfortable on the radio. And if you can do it on a small, tight little technical track like
got no problem when you come out onto the bass track. We'll cut that part out.
If you're enjoying Project RTR, drop below and give us a subscribe, and be sure to stay tuned for week 3 as we dive deeper.